to My Waeguk Life, the podcast where we are all about discussing the foreigner experience in Korea,
as well as how professional life fits into that. As Waegukins, we are always trying to find a way
where there seems to be no way.
It's My Waeguk Life.
Hello, welcome to the very first recording of My Waeguk Life. I'm Anna.
And I'm Kelsey. So a quick rundown of how we're planning to do this podcast going forward. After our opening, we will have a guest interview or a free talk segment, after which we will then have a question of the week, where listeners or friends or family will get to share their thoughts, and we will also have a recommended song or songs for you to enjoy.
Since this is our first episode, we are going to interview ourselves and introduce ourselves. And as there was no last week, we ask our friends and Liberty Global followers, what's a question you would like to answer but no one asks? We will read some of the responses we got to that. Also, stay tuned for the song recommendations of the week.
Just a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by LeBridge Global. Create your tomorrow. If you have a specific freelance service you would like to share with others, but have no proper space to conduct business or manage products,
or if you need to hire someone with a specific skill set, here is your official invitation to joining the LeBridge Global community. Visit lebridgeglobal.com to sign up today, or you can contact them at help@lebridgeglobal.com. Now, on to our guest interview, which is no guest this week, next week, because we are interviewing ourselves since we want to introduce each other to every one of our listeners.
All right, so who's going to go first this week?
You're going to go first, Kelsey.
Oh, awesome.
So introduce yourself to us.
Hi, everybody, whoever is listening. My name is Kelsey Clark, and I'm from Jamaica. I know it doesn't sound like that, but I promise you I am. I was born and raised there. I've now been in Korea for 3.5, closer to 4 years. I graduated my master's program here in an MBA majoring in finance. And right now I'm just freelancing, part-timing, and working on my Korean so I can find a job.
Mm-hmm. So Kelsey, how far away is your country from here?
This is I don't know the mileage, of course, but it took me by plane and stopovers 30 hours to get here.
30 hours.
Yes. So I left Jamaica on what was a Wednesday morning and got to Korea what would have been Friday night in Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very long time. But when you were transferring, how many hours did you have to wait?
So my plane travel was Jamaica to Atlanta, USA, and I had a 3-hour layover in Atlanta. And then I went from Atlanta to New York, and I had 6 hours in New York, and then New York to Korea, which is a 14-hour flight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the biggest culture shock that you got in Korea, and how is a similar situation handled in your country?
I think over time, because it's been so long since I've had a serious culture shock in Korea, being here so long, but thinking back on it, one of the bigger culture shocks I got was shared food, I would guess. I guess it's like that for a lot of foreigners.
Yes.
Just because in my country, your plate is your plate, and usually the only people you share plates, forks, anything like that with is family, and usually it's close family or your significant other.
Exactly.
So the first time I had to sit down at a large table and everybody was picking food from the same pot, I was like, what?
What are you doing, people?
It was people putting their spoons in their mouth and dipping back in, and I was like, okay. But I've gotten used to it now. Now I look at my friends or newcomers to Korea weird when they're like, oh, let me just share out a little in my own plate and keep it with me. I'm like, now you're the weird one.
Yes, exactly. What is the biggest misconception people in Korea have about Jamaica?
The thing is with that is not a lot of Korean people know Jamaica that much. So rather than misconception, it's just if they know the country. So for the most part, when people go, where are you from? They expect American, Waeguk saram. But when I say Jamaica, they go, oh, Jamaica. And if they've heard of it, they've either heard of it from Bob Marley, which is usually older people, or Usain Bolt. But usually they don't even know where my country is so much. The weird thing about that is Korea has a word for where my country is located. It's in the Caribbean. If there are any foreigners out there who don't know and you're listening, Jamaica is in the Caribbean. And the Korean word for that is karabihe. So they have, it probably is a newer word, but they have a word for it. Yes. But I will say even that, and Koreans won't know where that is. So I have to be like, it's below America-ish. Like Florida, 3 hours south, like...
I think the best solution for that is just to show the map.
Probably, that's true.
So, what's the number one thing you would like people to know about your country then?
When people look up Jamaica, obviously, like, they see the tourist aspects because that's how they're going. I want people to know that my country, as small as it is so much more beautiful than white sand beaches. They're wonderful. They are. I've been there. Friends go there all the time. And they're amazing. But when you dig a little bit deeper into our culture, or you go a little bit further inland, not too far, but a little bit further inland, like my country is an extremely beautiful place. And a good place to go. And people are extremely nice there as well. So even if you don't know anybody from Jamaica and you go there, you can easily make a friend.
So what made you to come here to Korea?
So I love my story isn't an I love K-pop story. It's not.
Really?
I did not come here to find a Korean husband or because I'm in love with the group. It's not cultural at all, which is very different from a lot of foreigners. A lot of foreigners here are either culturally driven or English teacher driven, I guess. In university, I was doing a project on fast moving economies because I studied economics in my undergrad. And Korea was one of the top economies that were exponentially growing. But I almost failed that project because I wanted to concentrate on Korea. Because every time I went back with a draft to my professor, they would say, this is a high school project. This is not in-depth research. What kind of economist would talk about this surface thing? And I'm like, but I can't find anything else. So I was interested to come here. I actually came here not thinking I would stay very long. But then I got offered a scholarship to study. And then in my last semester of studying, I was like, you know what? I'd rather think I would like to take this like long term and see if I can actually get a job in finance in Korea. That's going to be a long-term goal, but I'm trying.
You're trying, okay. Do you think it's possible though, like for all the people who could listen to us and think about the same thing as you? Like, I want to get a job here in specific field, which is finance.
I think it's possible, but I think from my experience, something people have to be aware of is you have to work a lot harder and in a lot of ways that you didn't expect you would have to. If I was in Jamaica, I'd be in a financial field based on my studies. Also, not to brag, but I'm not smart. I have a little bit of sense. So I would have a job in finance if I wanted one in Jamaica. Here, you have to go a little bit more in depth because it's not just about doing well in school as a foreigner. It's not just about studying it. It's a lot of those harder fields. They're about the country's finances. So you have to know not only Korean, but business Korean. But not only business Korean, but financial terms in Korean. So the fact that I have to get my Korean level up, and then I have to get a business education in terms of language, and then I have to make sure I have the terms down and I can explain to an everyday investor in Korea what futures are, but I have to be able to explain that in Korean. So that's the struggle of it. If you want to be in a field in Korean on the same level as Koreans, you have to kind of push yourself just a little bit harder. It's like the struggle you have to prepare yourself for.
But do you know anybody working in finance that's foreigner?
I do, but they tend to be higher level. So while I was in school, we did a program that was sponsored by Citibank in Korea.
Okay.
And they have foreigners that work in Citibank in Korea.
Okay.
But most of those people are like senior managers who were brought from abroad to work in the country. But I'm trying to work from the ground up. I don't think I'm the first. I'm probably not, because you have foreigners who grew up in Korea their whole life. So they're more Korean than foreign in their minds. But so I'm sure I'm not the first, but I'm trying to be one of the few, I guess.
That's great. Okay. So we can close up.
So usually after interviews, we're going to be doing a speed round. I'm guessing I will continue answering because the speed round will be for our guests.
Yes.
So after the interviews, we'll have a fire round where we're going to list 3 categories. It will be different each week, but it's generally in the same realm of things. And the guest will have to tell us what's the first thing that pops into their mind as it relates to their country.
Yes.
So me being the guest.
So are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So what's the best food in Jamaica?
Okay, so my favorite food in Jamaica is something called stew peas, or for the more proper English-speaking people out there, stewed peas. But Jamaican people call it stew peas. A lot of people who know Jamaica will think, wait, what happened to jerk chicken? That's traditionally Jamaica's most noticed dish. But for me, stew peas that your grandmother has cooked is the best thing Jamaica has to offer. If you ever go there, find a shop that sells stew peas.
But what's in there?
So many different people put different kind of things in it just because, vegetarianism isn't really huge in Jamaica, but we do have a group of people called Rastafarians that don't eat meat. So they might just put legumes, but the basis of stew peas is what the world knows as either red beans or kidney beans. Okay. And we in Jamaica just call them red peas. But it's like, that's the basis of it. It's not stew peas without those peas. But when my family is cooking it, there's chicken, beef, and pig's tail.